everyone, Ivy Lee Gaming here, and today we're playing Dragonheir Silent Gods. For today's video, we're going to talk about the Otherworld Exploration and the Endgame boss. This is kind of what all of the season leads up to. And yeah, this is a continuation of my beginner guide series, so before we get into it, let's take a quick teaser from Season 4. Thank you to Dragonheir Silent Gods for sponsoring today's video. Dragonheir is my favorite sponsor because it's my favorite game I've played in such a long time. I really enjoy the graphics. They really knocked it out of the park with the new heroes of this season. We are on to Season 4, new season, new heroes, new Otherworld. There's some really killer bosses this time around, and I hope you guys will enjoy. If you haven't already checked out Dragonheir, be sure to download using my link in the description or the pinned comment. It's available on Android, iOS, Mac, PC, Steam, or Epic Games. Alright, so in case you missed it, I have done a bunch of videos already. This is nearing the end of the series, so I've already covered the first week of gameplay, game mechanics, game modes and bosses, the gacha system, the alliance system, shops and spending, and then events, both special and regular. And now we are on to the endgame side of things. Alright, so before we go into all of it, let me just quickly read through the introduction. Why not? This is actually just a quick, well, not a quick, it's a good little TLDR explaining what the things are, at least. So, the theme of this Otherworld exploration is the Lament of the Snowland, and it's divided into two stages, Snow Sacrifice and Resurgent Dragon. In Snow Sacrifice, you play 3 different modes, Adventure Preparation, Elemental Domain, and Chaos Shadows. The server will record the total progress of these modes for all players server-wide. When the progress of each mode is completed, extra buffs will be granted to players server-wide in Resurgent Dragon. On the day after the 3 modes are fully completed, or when the specified number of days has been reached, the Otherworld Exploration will enter the Resurgent Dragon stage, where you will obtain rich rewards by challenging the Dragon of the Snowland. In Otherworld Exploration, complete daily exploration quests, in-depth exploration quests, and participate in various types of gameplay to boost your exploration progress. Corresponding rewards will be granted upon completing certain exploration progress. Daily exploration quests and in-depth exploration quests are only available in the Snow Sacrifice stage and will be disabled during the Resurgent Dragon phase. So if you don't complete all of those by the time it switches to Resurgent Dragon, then you can't go back and do them again. And then on the day after the Resurgent Dragon is defeated, the Otherworld Exploration will enter the Snowfield Shadow stage and settle the rewards obtained by players. So when the dragon's dead, and your season's over for the sake of this extra currency and the rankings, except for Vortex does continue to a certain point there, so you just pay attention to your little chart there in the seasonal area for when things are ending and when the rankings are settled. But yeah, that's a little bit of discussion around it. It's a huge topic, obviously. This is the main core of the game. And again, it all leads up to like the seasonal rewards, which is what you're really aiming for. Trying to place in the top to get the special tickets for the next summon of the season, the fun mount, the summons, the stuff. We want all the stuff. And your points actually determine that. So I have to point out here, it's really fun to see lots of the people that were active. Like Pip was only a $1 account, and he's number 3 in the entire server. It just shows you, depending on the server you're on, if you're not in the day 1 servers like I am on my main account that are considered Kraken servers at this point, it's actually very easy to place if you're just active and trying and progressing. And yeah, lots of the main people from that are here. Free-to-play accounts in the top that are going to get the best rewards possible just because they were more active. So this is a really interesting part of gameplay. So your whole season kind of leads up to that. If you take a look at the calendar, you can kind of see like Otherworld Exploration is a really, really big part of it here. And that's what's unlocked right now. And that's where you really start to get the seasonal currency that converts, which is the main source of being able to have a lot of excitement when you go into the next season. So this is really what you want to push. But the fun thing to note is like the events that happen before the UTR or Ardreth or whatever for the season, that leads you into the Otherworld Exploration, because the same type of bosses you fight for the sake of what they call the continental challenges, like we talked about in the last video, those are the same bosses for the Chaos Shadows. So that's just a really interesting way of doing it. You're going to fight the same types of bosses. Now, I have a ton of videos on all of these different Chaos Shadow bosses and strategies and where to place people and all sorts of stuff. And that can be really helpful if you guys are stuck on certain bosses. But it's just like the Continental Challenges. You get these, you have to work on these Chaos Shadow bosses to get points. And that's kind of the best thing to do points-wise. So let me go ahead and pull one of those up so we can take a look. So I'm going to show some stuff from my last Season 1 experience here from when I first played it, because it's a little bit easier to show. And I didn't do all the stuff on this account to actually be able to show it all. So you're going to actually go into this other area that's going to lead you here by story. So there is quite the story that follows through that leads you into the Otherworld Exploration. And it's a whole new map. So it's good if you're a fan of that as well. There'll be some fun little areas to clear and get more rewards. And you're going to start to open up different stuff as you go along. The quests will trigger in the normal part of the world. Like up here, I think Dragonblood Ridge up here was where it triggered. And then it led you into this other area. And while you do like the map exploration, you're going to open up the different spots where all the bosses are. And that's kind of divided, as you saw on my screen here: adventure, preparation, elemental domains, and chaos shadows. The Chaos Shadows are the random bosses that you fight. The domains are like a dungeon that you would fight as well. And adventure preparation, that is again just a different type of, I guess how can I show it? Let's see. How can I show it easily? That is quests that are daily, I guess. It's like the lowest amount of points. So right here, you could see that this is the currency of the season. Like they have a currency, and as you get exploration progress, you unlock a ton of rewards. And then once you get to a certain point, the rewards start looping. And this, again, this is how you get the tons of Echoes of Clepsydra to be able to rank. The higher you rank, the better. And obviously, you get more of the rewards to use for the seasonal shop in the future. So you just have to be active a little bit here. But just claiming stuff here for your clan, your alliance is helpful. But there is, I have to talk about the reality of the way this is set up. So the Chaos Shadows here are the best way to get points, right? So let me see if I kind of show that in my video. So once you go through, you're going to, let's see, you're going to see, okay, that's the domain. That's a domain. Where's the Chaos Shadow? Here's the Chaos Shadow. All right, here's the Chaos Shadow. So this is the best way to get points. It's all about getting that exploration currency, right? So if this is the best way to get points, you get enough currency to do things in the game, in the Otherworld, the special currency up here at the top. You get enough of that for 15 battles. So to min-max and be a crazy person, like what we do in later seasons, you can do up to 15 different teams versus these Chaos Shadow bosses. And it can be fighting the same boss multiple times. You don't have to fight every single boss like you do in the UTR style Continental Challenges. This is a free-for-all. And because of the way this is set up, there's also alliance buffs. So the alliance buffs make your battles just easier. It is what it is. It just makes everything easier. So the types of fights you can do in the Chaos Shadows versus what you can do before that it's a little different in difficulty because you don't have these special buffs before Otherworld Exploration starts. And these Special Alliance buffs only affect the Otherworld Exploration. But they really do make it so much easier to build heroes, to create teams versus these Chaos Shadows, that it's you know, definitely a huge benefit to be in an active alliance to make sure you're getting those buffs. So yeah, let me kind of continue showing a little bit more here. So there is, so like this is what the domains look like. It's a boss fight, and then there's certain elemental damages are boosted, like cold and necrotic damage is boosted against this Charlatch boss, right? And you just go through and get points, but it's obviously advisable just to have fun with it. And if you're not super stressed about ranking, go through, do all the domains to stage 5 and try to do the dailies. But the fact of getting lower exploration currency on level 1, on level 2, on level 3, on level 4, whatever, compared to doing the Chaos Shadow boss fights, it actually just makes doing the Chaos Shadow boss fights more worth it than to try to do the normal dailies. I know that sounds sad, but it is what it is. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. It's like a little bit, could be a little bit fixed, but it's kind of, I don't know why this isn't showing. It's so funny. But yeah, it's just the way it is, guys. I don't mind it, but I would think it would be more ideal if we were kind of forced to obviously explore this land. You go to your adventure preparation area, you do some dailies. There should be a little bit more encouragement to get better daily rewards, and not only do the Chaos Shadow bosses, but that's the way it is with the point system now, so I have to tell you the best way to do it. But yeah, the fights are pretty cool. Like the boss fights here, ooh, let me quiet myself. The boss fights are pretty interesting, and it's just a different dungeon for the domains, but again, doing the domains, it's not really worth it if you can do 15 teams versus the Chaos Shadows and get your top points. The difference also when it comes to the Chaos Shadows that I need to point out is 22,000 is, that's it. There's no reason to get anything better. So because there's no reason to get anything better, you just do the bare minimum. You can actually just have fun building lots of really quirky teams, and you'll be surprised at what you can throw together that actually works. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. And a quick note, the Viofrey boss is probably the hardest one of Season 1 overall. I really think so. It's a pretty tough boss because there's lots of crowd control and you need to be able to deal with that. But yeah, it's the time to push and really push your account. So kind of doing that UTR style Continental Challenge event preps you for the Otherworld Exploration. But if you want to know to be prepared, the best thing to do is to get as many heroes built possible. Work on Goblin, work on your domains while you're waiting to start Otherworld Exploration, and that's kind of gonna set you up for success to do up to 15 teams so you can rank the highest and get the best seasonal reset rewards you can. And again, I have so many videos from every season talking about the different bosses, trying to fight them, showing examples of teams, showing how important the positioning can be. So you can definitely just check those out when you get a chance if you need to. But it's a fun game mode. It's a really, really fun game mode. It's just a lot of work. A lot of work. So we also have different endgame bosses every season. Like the Absolosis was season 3. We had, again, different actual, so these are my How to Beat series for season 3 is here as well. Those are fighting those Chaos Shadow bosses. These ones here were from season 2, fighting the different Chaos Shadow bosses as well. And then that rolled into the Mechatork, which I have a really good guide on. Top 5 tips versus the Mechatork endgame boss. But season 1 was the Resurgent Dragon. So that is a fun boss fight. It was a bit different. I think it was a really good challenge. They did a really good job with that with the first season. So I have 10 tips versus the Resurgent Dragon. This is kind of the go-to video I would say to watch if you want to get all sorts of tips in better detail. But I'll give the quick TLDR because why not? Alright, so going into the Resurgent Dragon, the boss is going to have certain skills, and then after 50%, the skills change a little bit, and the difficulty is harder. It's increased. But this is a fun boss that you kind of need some AoE damage, and it's different than some of the ones in future seasons. They definitely do a good job mixing it up, I think, with the endgame bosses. So this one was the first tip here. Making sure everyone survives the whole fight should be the main goal. So survivability was key. And the one thing that's also interesting is if you can survive long enough, you're probably going to hit the damages too. So like 200 million damage was the maximum. So not maximum. It starts taking 90% less damage after you get to that point. So if you could actually hit multiple teams where you get 200 million damage, it's pretty impressive, right? And that's kind of the goal for this, is to survive. When it comes to the teams, you can have 6 teams total, and you cannot use the same heroes again. All right, then we have tip number 2. You don't need a tank unless they bring more. So in this setup here, you don't need a tank unless it's someone like a Furboth, who's also your healer and your attack penalty. Or you're using Garius and a Gatekeeper staff for survivability. But you don't need to bring a tank just to bring a tank. In this game, in this mode, the way the boss hits, you kind of just get hit. Everyone gets hit, for the most part. Or not, depending on the skill. But it's not like the boss just targets a tank, so it's kind of an easy, little tip there. Oops, and tip number 3, not tip number 1. Shields are massive. Use in all battles if possible. Yeah, I do remember shields being huge for survivability versus this boss. So that could be your Ice Traveler, your Adolphus, Felocia if you get really lucky, or a Chrysos, and yeah. Shields are really good versus this boss. Alright, tip number 4. Ultimate energy up or down is a must for maximum damage and keeping timings consistent. Yeah, this boss has a really quirky thing where you have to manipulate its ultimate energy. So that's just using recharging speed penalty, or like the ultimate energy up down type instant skills is huge. And it's the kind of thing where, like, if you don't reduce it enough, it does something else. Or like if you reduce the ultimate energy to a certain point, then it goes into this weakened state and you can ramp up extra damage during that special state at the end. And if you don't consistently do that and you try to set timings for this boss, it's just going to go out of sync completely. Yeah, let me just quickly go through the rest of these though. You guys obviously can watch the video for a better explanation, so I'm just going to read through this quick because I feel like it's a good TLDR just to give you some quick tips about this boss while we're here. Hold DPS ultimates until after the boss's ult when he's in the weakened state. If you can, not the whole time because the fight's long, but if you notice that you can actually do your timings accordingly, it's not a bad idea to do so because that's when the boss is going to take the most damage when it enters that weakened state. Next tip here is to, click better. Prevent debuffs before they land. So there are some debuffs that land. I think it's like decreased attack, decreased defense, and a recharging speed penalty. Or maybe it's just 2 of them. I'm sorry. It's been forever. But the recharging speed penalty, if you let that land, it throws off your own timings, right? It messes up your timings of your ultimate regeneration for your heroes. So you want to prevent the debuffs from landing before the recharging speed penalty actually happens in the first place using a block debuffs hero. Again, this video talks about everything pretty well. It's been a while. I feel a little rusty, but Season 1 Otherworld was a long time ago. Alright, use a hero that dispels debuffs or cleanse 2 of all of them. Okay. Yeah, you gotta at least be able to cleanse 2 debuffs. That's also really helpful. If you can't do the prevention of debuffs, you want to at least dispel them, cleanse them. And then positioning definitely matters as well. So I think I show here my positioning. Let's see. The way we position was pretty important in the way that the boss deals with its attacks. And again, that's a deeper topic to discuss in like actually watching this video. And then let's see here. So tip number 10, manual or semi-manual, or don't expect big results. Yeah, I definitely found that this was the kind of boss fight where if you did not save your ultimates for the right time, or things got out of whack, if you weren't consistent enough with the recharging speed penalty, then you just couldn't get the top damage. It's worth it to do this on manual if you needed to, just to make sure things are happening correctly at the right times. I really, really think so, because like this is where, again, you get some massive points for the end game side of things for the seasonal resets. But yeah, this is a cool boss. I really think they did a really good job with the mechanics of it, and it's kind of what the whole season leads up to. Okay, I guess that sums it up. Let me know if you guys have any questions. The best thing I could do, I know I hate to say just go to my YouTube, but it's kind of true, is check out the YouTube channel. If you are doing a certain one, like if you're like, okay, I want to beat Alton boss, how to beat Alton. I have multiple videos on Alton. Okay, that was season 2, but you know what I mean. Resurgent Dragon. Boom. Tips versus the Resurgent Dragon. A first look at the Otherworld Exploration here, and using my Frost team versus it. So this shows one of my first battles versus the Resurgent Dragon. This video was tips. There you go. But if you're on season 2 and you want to look at the Mecha Torque, you can type that in, and I have a ton of videos on that. This is just a very in-depth topic. I can't really show fighting every single Chaos Shadow fight or domain in this video, or we would be here all day. So I obviously do have videos for that. I think I don't really show too much of the Otherworld ones except for this, just kind of the exploration guide and playthrough. Like I do show I show some of that in the video that I was just referencing that we were looking at if you want to see a little bit more ahead of time. But those are pretty self-explanatory. You're just going in versus a boss. There's some waves and there's specific damage boosts. But all right, guys, thank you for hanging out and watching this series. I will see you in the next one. Be sure to download via Android, iOS, Mac PC, Steam, or Epic Games if you haven't already. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. And thank you to Dragonheir Silent Gods for sponsoring today's video.